It'll just go donk. Thank you for joining the New Mexico Motorsports Report here on the ProView Network. I hope that this is the first time you tuned in. If you've watched it before, we're going to change the format just a little bit. But really what our show is about bringing you information about local racing events, local car show events, basically things that motorsports people are into. So we really appreciate you tuning in. My name is David Swope. I'm your host. I'm joined with reporter Spencer Hill and Brooklyn Green. And so first I wanted to get, just kind of introduce ourselves a little bit, tell you a little bit about myself. I've basically lived in New Mexico since I was 2, started racing out at Triple T. I don't know how many of you remember the track out there on West Central, but it was a great little go-kart track. Used to race with Robbie Unser, and I actually remember the first time that Al Unser Jr. came out when he was 18 years old, and he was such a rock star to us, we couldn't believe that he was actually out there. But I have a couple of photographs just for the fun of it. The first one was back in actually 2003 when I was racing slug bugs at Sandia Speedway. So you can see they're having a little bit of fun. July 5th, and of course that's why the flag. But got to racing bugs out there on the asphalt track. Always grew up doing road racing, and this is my a shot of the latest car that I have. It's a spec Miata that we race out on the road course. If we'll go to that shot, there you go. So of course, got a little sponsorship on the hood, and that's what so all racing seems to be about, to keep it going. But a lot of neat things going on, and as the show progresses, we're going to talk a little bit about some opportunities that you actually have locally to go out and participate. So want to introduce Spencer Hill. Spencer's one of the reporters just joining us. Last year we had you on as a guest, so really appreciate you being part of the team now. But I kidded Spencer. I said, hey, send us some pictures of how you got started in racing. So let's talk a little bit about how you got involved in racing.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on this year. Really excited to get on board with you guys. A super cool opportunity to talk about some racing, something that really doesn't get a lot of coverage here in New Mexico. That's a huge opportunity for everybody involved. But a little bit about me: I started racing when I was 8 years old. A lot of people started in the quarter midget realm of things on asphalt. I went a little bit different route, and I started out with dirt racing with speedway karts. I think we have a picture of it here. And again, that was in 2008. I'd always loved racing from growing up from an early age, and that was just something that I always wanted to do. Here's the picture of it now. That was my first ever go-kart, the number 18. I chose that because of driver Bobby Labonte. That was someone that I always looked up to.
Awesome.
Him and Mark Martin were always my 2 favorite drivers. Rolling on to the next picture would be in my following go-kart. And I raced that one. This picture was actually at the IKF Grand Nationals in just outside of Newton, Iowa. So a lot of traveling done in the speedway karts. And following that, we did a little bit more racing, went back to some regional stuff in the number 4 go-kart, which I gathered that number because we actually ended up racing 2 different go-kart classes, trying to get me as much track experience as possible. And the number 4 was just a family number that I always loved quite a bit.
So was it always on dirt? Did you ever do any asphalt karting?
So I never did any asphalt karting per se, besides just some stuff at that same go-kart track. Yeah. I knew it as Route 66 karting,
right?
But same place.
Yep.
And everything, just to practice little tuning with the motor and the carbs and stuff. But never really got into asphalt stuff until I was a little bit older. My first asphalt attempt was in 2012 with the Ron Sutton's Winter Circle program, and I had the opportunity to drive what's called a midget car. And if you aren't really familiar with those, these were the Ford Focus Midget Series, which was a 4-cylinder engine and very light for their power to weight ratio. Super fun cars though. Learned so much about asphalt racing. I kind of figured if I ever wanted to make a big name for myself in racing in general, I was going to have to transfer over to the asphalt side of things as well as the dirt. And so with keeping that in mind, I split my schedule between the micro sprint, that I had gotten just a year before that, and the asphalt midget, and learned quite a bit.
That's awesome. Well, you have some pictures also of the micro sprints, right?
Yeah, the last picture we have here will be of the micro sprint, and that's actually the first car. There it is. The first car that we owned in the micro sprint career that I had. That was a 2001 Hyper chassis. We recently sold that down to some fellows in Las Cruces, and now I'm racing with a Factor 1 chassis under myself in the micro sprint world.
Awesome, and I think we have a couple more shots.
Yeah, and this is that the asphalt midget that I was talking about with Ron Sutton's Winter Circle. Raced a few seasons in 2012 and then the beginning of 2013 in that. Once again, just learning a whole lot, and that really helped spike my career.
Is it another shot of that, or
another shot of the same car?
Yeah.
Really love that paint job too. Beautiful car. That was Jessica Clark's old midget that she ran, also for the same team. Was a really awesome opportunity.
Wow. Well, Brooklyn, I know that I've given you a hard time about the quarter midgets, and we've got a couple of shots, including, I mean, you were super young as well. When did you get started?
I started racing when I was 7.
Jeez.
Yeah. I stopped racing about 8th grade, but I'm out at the track all the time as much as possible. So yeah, I started in quarter midgets when I was 7. That was my first car, my first win. Gotta say, that's not the prettiest looking car, but hey, he got around that racetrack and clearly he got a win there. So yeah, and that was also my first race. That's my dad behind me. And then the next picture there is getting my trophy after that as well.
Wow.
So yeah, I started quarter midget at 7, and then I stuck with quarter midgets for a while, and then kind of high school came around. My older sister went to college, so we had to sell the race cars. But if I had the choice, I would have went to dirt for sure. I wanted to get a mini sprint. That was the thing that I wanted. So actually last season I actually got a chance to go out and finally get on dirt in a mini sprint, and it was super fun, everything I expected it to be. But yeah, racing's just kind of been in my life forever, and I thought if I can't be in a car, I might as well be talking about the sport that I love. So.
Well, and I thought maybe we'd kind of open up with the last part of the segment, because I grew up around asphalt racing. I mean, I know that Albuquerque's a dirt town. I really pushed and was involved in actually bringing the dirt track to Sandia, which is, I mean, a lot of people were not happy about, because, you know, they felt like it killed the asphalt program. And, you know, I'll admit it, I'll say that on TV. But I grew up with cousins that would race down in Duke City, and my dad was always like, oh no, we're road racers, you know, so you don't want to go down there and ruin your talents, you know, by racing on the dirt track. So I'm just going to open it up to both of you, and you can chime in. Do you either one of you have a preference? I mean, do you prefer asphalt? Do you prefer dirt?
I mean, I started on asphalt, so I'll always have that love for asphalt. I mean, quarter midgets on asphalt were so fun, and I enjoyed every second of it. But I'm not going to lie, I would much rather race sprint cars on dirt than legends on asphalt.
I've always told all my friends and anybody else that asks me, if you want to make money, you go asphalt racing. If you want to have fun, you go dirt racing. And that's always been true throughout the years, even in go-karts. A lot of my friends raced quarter midgets while I was racing go-karts. They went to the track and it was really, really serious, really organized, whereas on the dirt side of things with the go-karts, we were still learning the fundamentals of everything, but it was a lot more relaxed and a lot more laid back, and we had an opportunity to really enjoy ourselves growing up around the racetrack too.
I mean, I enjoyed myself at the asphalt track.
Everything just seems so serious with that asphalt side. It was a little bit of tension between the two.
Yeah, I would say that. I remember growing up, before the dirt track was at Sandia, it was the motocross track. And that's where the tension was between the asphalt and the dirt on motocross. That's where everybody was like, we're better. Yeah, it was like a competition kind of thing between us kids.
To me, though, as long as you're racing, especially if you're getting kids into it, it doesn't matter if you're racing dirt bikes, go-karts, quarter midgets, pee-wee bikes, it doesn't matter. Just get them out there, get them loving the sport, because that's really our future and that's where we need to head.
Exactly.
Well, and I agree with that. I mean, I started really with BMX, racing, and I mean, nothing really gets rougher than, bicycles, a bunch of kids piling into a corner, and you really didn't. I mean, we didn't even have helmets. We weren't really all that smart back then. Plus the brain damage. But I think one of the things I try and compare is we're going to talk a little bit later about I went out to dirt practice yesterday out at Sandia, but I was just curious on the expense level. I mean, because you look at a lot of the stock cars out there, I mean, they're all dented on every corner, and wearing out tires on asphalt. So I was just curious, I mean, is it more expensive to race on dirt or asphalt? What would be your thoughts on that?
So from what I can understand, it all comes down to how fast you want to go. That's regardless whether it's dirt or asphalt. From what I did personally, the asphalt side was a lot more expensive, but I was also able to have the opportunity to race some modified stuff with the asphalt side of things too, and the sprint car stuff on the dirt wasn't quite as expensive as that. Mm-hmm. But when you come down to it, if you want to move on to the next level, you're going to have to shell out some cash either way.
Yeah.
Racing is not a cheap sport, I can tell you that.
Absolutely, I love the analogy, because I remember when I was building the Bug and we had the picture there before. I was just I thought, oh, it's probably an inexpensive. I mean, how fast can a Bug really go? And I remember the question as I asked a motor builder. I said, well, what's it going to cost to build a motor? And he goes, well, you got to tell me, do you want to win, or do you just want to go out there and have fun and have some liability? And I said, oh, just curious, how much is the difference in cost, And of course, when you're originally building, I mean, I think the difference was like $400 at that time. And I was like, well, of course I want to win. I just didn't know that anybody ever set out with a criteria of, I just want to run mid-pack, so I'm kind of curious. But really appreciate you tuning in for the New Mexico Motorsports Report here on ProView Network. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more coming up on the other side.
Ladera Golf Course. Opened in 1980, Ladera features a full 18 including spacious greens, a large driving range, roomy practice putting greens, and 4 large lakes. Surrounding Ladera, beautiful views of the Sandia Mountains to the east and volcanoes to the west. Ladera is a challenging city-owned course with the longest playing yardage of any other city courses. For weekend tee times and more information, call 505-836-4449. Ladera Golf Course. Opened in 1980, Ladera features a full 18 including spacious greens, a large driving range, roomy practice putting greens, and 4 large lakes. Surrounding Ladera, beautiful views of the Sandia Mountains to the east and volcanoes to the west. Ladera is a challenging city-owned course with the longest playing yardage of any other city courses. For weekend tee times and more information, call 505-836-4449. Ladera Golf Course.
Christy May's Restaurant is locally owned and operated with a family-friendly atmosphere. Their array of homemade comfort food is just like your mom's. From homemade chicken pot pie to their famous chicken salad on a croissant, Christy May's even offers lunch catering. Christy May's Restaurant is located at 1400 San Pedro Drive Northeast. They offer drive-in, carry-out, and catering. Open Monday through Saturday, 10:30 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth that's real tough, backed by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at ProView Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Turbo Threads is a proud sponsor of ProView Networks.
Welcome back to the New Mexico Motorsports Report here on the ProView Network. Really appreciate you joining the show, and we want to invite you to become part of the show. You can follow us on nmmotorsportsreport.com. There's a place there where you can send us messages for anything you want to see, anything that you know is going to be going on. It's always good to make sure you send us the schedules. As we go into September, a lot of the schedules are going to be released. We're going to bring those to you here so you know where you can go and check out races. For instance, I went out last weekend out to the drag strip, had a few shots from there. Of course, the weather changed things up because the AFX race was supposed to be on Sunday as the season opening bracket race, but they ended up moving it to Saturday. Now, I do understand that they went ahead and had some races on Sunday, but the wind was so bad that everything had to be canceled. Of course, they are off next weekend for Easter, but they're going to have 40 events between now and they race into November. So we've got a couple of shots. The first shot here is actually on the grid. One of the best racing communities we actually have in Albuquerque is the drag strip, celebrating 55 years. Of course, that's just on the grid. The cool thing about the drag racing, we're always going to be talking about, is anytime you go out there, a pass is a pit pass. And I mean, literally, you can see there's a bunch of cars on the grid there. Next shot shows one of the AFX cars. They had probably about 20,000 or 20 nostalgia cars that came down, burn out. A lot of stuff, you know, I mean, from mid 60s, early 70s stuff, and I mean, these are probably $100,000 cars with a lot of horsepower. Got another shot of an AFX car here with the next slide. Actually, that's our buddy Steve Haydu. I didn't know he had his Steve, and most of you guys know him as he's the DJ that comes out and plays all the music. I didn't know he had this thing in the garage. And of course, sporting a Yearwood Speed and Custom, well, a Yearwood Performance hat. So I owe you $1 on that one, Jim Costa, bringing up the Speed and Custom. But a lot of cool things that are going on out there. But there's a lot of different things that you can go out and do. Out of Sandia, there's a lot of different events, including drifting. Later in the next couple of months, we'll probably get Dan Brockett on. A lot of you know him as Officer Dan or Turbo Dan, and he'll be out, and they're going to have a lot of events heading up to the No Coast Drift, which is, you know, probably the biggest party that they have out there, short of back when we used to have the raves. Do you guys remember the raves? Yeah. Do you remember the rave? Anyway, so we won't really talk about that. But of course, there's a lot of motocross that goes on around town as well. There's a Loretta Lynn that's going to be in mid-April out at Sandy Motocross. I guess it's Moriarty Motocross now, but anyway, we'll have some schedules and stuff like that. But Spencer, I understand that you participated in an arena cross event. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that.
Yeah, so in January, the Kicker Arena Cross Tour came to the Santa Ana Star Center here in Rio Rancho, and I went there on Friday night. Mind you, I really don't have any experience in the real motocross world of anything. I do a lot of trail riding with my uncle. He has a lot of bikes. He grew up motocross racing, but other than that, I've just always watched it on TV. But we went there on Friday night show, really enjoyed it. They put on an incredible event at the Star Center. And the following day, I woke up and I had the crazy idea, I'm gonna go do that tonight. We loaded up a bike, we went down there. I signed up in all the beginner classes that I could, which ended up just being one, because I realized really quick that I was probably not in the most physical shape to compete in more than that. But had a lot of fun. Actually, in my heat race, I was in a transfer spot to go into the main event, which was the full show with the crowd and everything there. And I went to double, a jump into the horseshoe turn, which would have then been the finish line jump. And coming down on the second double, I clipped it with my rear tire and did a kind of a nose wheelie and ended up going off the track, and I lost my transfer position. Didn't make it through the LCQ, but it was a lot of fun. I got to tell you, there is no better athlete out there than those motocross riders. They are so physically fit to do that for 20 minutes at a time without giving up anything out there on the track. Mad respect for every one of those riders.
Well, absolutely, and of course there was, I'm sure there was a Johnson out there. I mean, with Vern and Stan and Keith. Of course, Keith was pro. We got a couple of pro riders out of Moriarty. Of course, and Jason Anderson's running in the 450s now in the pro classes. But a lot of neat things going on. But you know, one of my favorite parts about racing is always the start. I have never done a motocross start. You got to tell me what is that like? A bunch of crazies trying to get into turn one.
I thought going into it that the jumps would be the most intimidating thing, but that wasn't the case at all. It was getting up there on that start line, looking across, seeing every rider next to me, and realizing they've all probably done this once or twice. You know, I've never done a start out of a drop gate like that, and I practiced a little bit in the parking lot, but there's nothing like actually sitting there with your front wheel inches from the start gate, seeing that 30-second sign drop to 5, and then holding in the clutch and being able to just go for it. And you have to be very careful too, because it's easy to, first of all, stall, but second of all, if you give it too much throttle, then it's really easy to actually loop the bike, which I was lucky enough not to do either of those when it really mattered, but that was really an interesting thing.
So have you ever, like, you know, saw something on TV or, thought, well, you know, that doesn't look that hard. I think I'll go
then
do
you
that.
do it, and it's like the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
I mean, those motocross drivers, props to them, but that looks so hard.
Yeah.
It was one of
That's
those
not one of
deals
the
where I
things that
knew if
look-
I didn't just go and do it, I'd probably never do it in my life.
Yeah.
And I actually had a lot of fun. This year I kind of came into the new year thinking to myself, you know, I can never really stay on a diet or, you know, watch my profanity or a general New Year's resolution like that. So I told myself, just go say yes to more things. And I did, and I went and did that. I rode passenger in a trophy truck, started up a podcast, and did a lot of really cool things just from being able to say yes to more things.
Wow, that's fantastic, because, you know, I always think about first, how much does it cost? You know,
Yeah.
it's like one of the first things I always consider, because I really want to build a drag car this year. I mean, I think that's the one thing, and I have a buddy that's got a couple of cars for sale, so I thought, well, you know, I just want to start with something and build it up, because like you said, everything gets to money. But the X Games is one of the things that I like to watch a lot with motocross. But I tell you, like the Gymkhana stuff, and I really at some point, I guess, well, I might as well say it, Charlie Fagan, if you're watching, one of the things I'd like to do is build that. What's the racing where you go from the dirt track to the asphalt track and back? It's in the X Games, but it's kind of like a rally.
It's kind of like endurocross.
Yeah, exactly. And endurocross, it's motorcycles, though, right?
Yeah.
But yes, that's exactly what it is. But I think that would be really cool. I also think it would be great to have a demolition derby. I've already talked to Charlie about that. But I guess they're going to try and bring back the trailer races. Now,
that'd be exciting.
Is that something that you could say yes to? Is a trailer
I would
race?
do it. I've always wanted to do where one person handles the throttle and the brake, and one person handles the steering.
Is that train racing? Is that what they call it? When
I'm
you got
not
the
totally
two
sure,
cars
but all
and
I know is
it's
that
chained together?
I've heard it called a couple different things. Train racing's one of them. There's another type of event. I haven't seen it in a couple of years, probably because it's a little bit dangerous, but it's where they actually stack it on top of each other. So there's two cars stacked like this.
Like a double-decker bus?
Like a double-decker bus that you can see in London. And the top guy steers, and the bottom guy controls the throttle and
I
brake.
think that'd be so fun. My uncles did that, actually, and
Wow.
they had a blast. I'm like, I feel like I would probably have to do the steering, because if somebody else was steering, I'd probably be like, brake, 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 like every 5 seconds.
No, that sounds like a lot of fun. I could just see the insurance covering that. So if you're listening and you got some other ideas, go to nmmotorsportsreport.com, send us a message, send us a link to something. Let's see if we can put it together. But there's all kinds of neat venues out there to where people can go. And, you know, we talked a little bit about this earlier, is, you know, Kaplan Memorial. Capitol Memorial, it would be neat to see that come back as another place, because one of the events that went on down there, other than speedway karting, was flat track motorcycles, and they're going to be running flat tracks out as a part of the Saturday night schedule. They're going to be running flat track motorcycles out at Sandia, and I know a lot of the guys that have been out there. We've got a lot of local riders. Indian Motorcycle has really gotten involved, because on the national level, Indian Motorcycle actually won the championship last year, and they knocked off Harley Davidson, so there's a big battle going on there. But we have a local pro here, and he just competed in Arizona, and there'll be a lot of neat things that can go on out there. But flat track is one of those things that is just like, you take a bike, a regular bike, and even run knobbies on that. I got to ask you, is that one you're going to say yes to?
It would take a lot of convincing for me to say yes. Probably with the right dollar amount, anything's possible, though.
Right.
My uncle did flat track racing. He did it with his motocross bike too, and he was really successful in it. He could probably give me a couple pointers, but that would take a lot of energy, a lot of time, and really a lot of guts.
Well, I think James Hosier could, give you some pointers, and we probably could find you a bike. The insurance might be another whole thing. But I was going to ask you. I know that you get a racing schedule this season too. When's your next race, and how many do you think you're going to be able to do this year?
We have a 24 race schedule, 12 weekends. So we're doing 2 race shows every one of those. And my next race is going to be April 6th and 7th in Las Cruces at the Southern New Mexico Speedway. That'll be in our micro sprint.
Awesome. And you're going to be down there at Southern New Mexico as well?
Yes, I'll be there that Friday night, the 6th.
So do you have like Twitter or, Instagram? Because, the older guy, I'm still on Facebook, because now that's all for old people. But if people wanted to follow you, how would they follow you?
You can follow me. My Facebook is Spencer Hill Racing. My Twitter and Instagram are both the same. It's at Spencer_Hill4. And then I also have a website at www.spencerhillracing.com.
And how about you? Are you going to be out doing anything? We're going to get you out to a NASCAR track this year?
I hope so. Thanks to you, I got approved for a media hard card pass, so I hope to put that to use a lot this year. It's kind of hard to get off school and work, not to miss too much school considering I'll be graduating soon, but I definitely want to get out to as many races as possible. But I'm going to be out at a ton of local tracks this season.
Awesome. Well, we got a whole lot more coming up on the New Mexico Motorsports right here on the ProView Network.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth that's real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Turbo Threads is a proud sponsor of ProView Networks.
Almost 30 years of experience means fast service, great prices, and a wide selection of apparel from t-shirts to performance sports shirts, even jackets and hats. They feature low minimums and no setup charges on most orders. Turbo Threads is located at 1503 Golf Course Road in Rio Rancho, or find them on Facebook, online at turbothreads.com, or call 999-1234 for Turbo Threads.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at ProView Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dreamstyle Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dreamstyle Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club, or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true. Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing home.
Welcome back to the New Mexico Motorsports Report here on the ProView Network. So one of the great things about being in New Mexico, of course, is our dry climate, which is why we have so many classic cars. And so I was surprised to find out that there was already a car show, and so of course I had to go, and that was on Saturday. Went to the car show at the Netherwood Church, and we got some shots here of some of the different cars. But of course, car show season typically starts. One thing that's neat about this, of course, it was at the Netherwood Church, Church of Christ, is that right there is what they call a valve cover racing track. So a lot of us, grew up, racing Pinewood Derbies. Well, actually, as you get older, then you collect all of these different valve covers, and now you can actually outfit them and put wheels and stuff like that. But you can find those at several different events. So we'll actually, I had to throw that out there, but we'll take a look at the next slide at some of the cars that were out there. I was amazed. There was probably 60, 70 cars. This is one of the Mopar clubs in town. Of course, it's a very active,
just beautiful.
Mopar. I know, isn't it amazing? And they do a lot of drag racing as well. They've got their own series. It's Mopars versus the World. Here's a couple of older vehicles. That pickup actually won Best Truck. Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at the paint on that. But a lot of people came out, and then Rockin' Rob was playing the tunes. Of course, he's a disabled veteran, and so he's a great guy. So anytime you have an opportunity to go hang out, this is actually the car that won. It's a '70 Barracuda. Now, what was funny is when I was taking pictures, I saw the plate on this, and there's the winners. They were driving from Canada. That car actually had spent some time in New Mexico, but they were just going down Route 66, and they said, hey, we saw that there was a car show in Albuquerque, so we wanted to stop, and then they end up winning top prize. But let me tell you, that car was absolutely amazing. And so when you go out and you look at them, there's so many different cars to look at. I mean, there was some drag cars. There was, a lot of different vehicles like rat rods. I don't know why I'm fascinated by rat rods. But they're pretty cool. But so I was just going to kind of open it up to you guys. Do you have a favorite car, like the one that's at the top of your list?
There's a lot of cars that I'd love to have. For one, I love my '96 Bronco. That's always been my baby. Literally, I was brought home as a baby in that car, so it's been in my family ever since. I love the Bronco, but I guess if money wasn't an issue, I could definitely see myself in a Lamborghini. One thing that I've always wanted is like a pre-runner for like a trophy truck.
Sure, yeah.
That's always been something that's really interested me, both on the off-roading and just like car show kind of basis. they're just so neat looking. I love the shock travel in them, the different motor packages that you can do. That would probably be my choice. Brooklyn, what do you think?
I was getting really excited. We'll come back to talking off-road in just a minute.
Well, like I was telling you guys before, I feel like you tell somebody you like race cars or something like that, and the very first question, well, what's your favorite car? What's your dream car? And I always have trouble with this question. You know, I don't have an ultimate favorite car. I mean, anything better than my 94 Honda Accord sitting outside. Just kidding. But no, yeah, my dad has a 71 Challenger that I've always been in love with, you know. I always tell him he needs to have that ready by my wedding because I'm going to drive to my wedding in that car. So hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah.
Well, he's got plenty of time.
Yeah, for real. But, you know, I don't know. I think every car is unique in its own way. And
I've got the perfect answer for you.
yes.
So one time I was interviewing Dave Dicatolia. He's got like 6 motorcycles. And I asked him, I said, hey, what is your favorite motorcycle? And he said, my next one. So that's your answer
good.
next time is what's your favorite? I was actually fortunate. My favorite was still the first car I actually had. Now my first pickup was a '56 Chevy pickup, but my first car was a '67 Nova Super Sport, and that's still one of my absolute favorites. But let's get back to talking a little off-road. There is a pre-runner group here in town, and have you heard of the Mint 500, the Mint 400?
Yeah,
excuse
the
me.
Mint 400. That just happened just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you guys were out at Vegas at the Bull Ring on the same weekend that they were out there.
We were in Lake Havasu, so just
that's
right
right,
up the
that's
road.
right.
But that was a really neat event down there. I think it was the 50th running of the Mint 400 this year.
Yeah.
So beautiful trucks out there. Not just trucks, buggies, 2x2s, all kinds of really neat vehicles going through the deserts of Las Vegas. Grueling race.
It amazes me because I remember back in the days of the great Parnelli Jones and them racing across the Pan American race where you would go for hundreds of miles, or you even remember the Herbie movie with Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo and rally racing. And I had an opportunity actually last week to interview Simon Pagino, and Simon was telling me about participating in the Pikes Peak Hill Climb in a minivan.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is a minivan, is a world-class driver. So I asked him, I said, when you retire, what kind of racing do you want to get in? And he wants to do rally racing. And so if you watch any YouTube videos of rally racing, I mean, there's always these cliffs and this craziness. And then I always think of, because it's a driver and a navigator, and I always think about my wife sitting over there, because I can never do anything right, and then how do you deal with, a navigator and stuff? But what do you think about trying some rally racing?
I'm not going to admit, I feel like I'd be kind of scared. But hey, I feel like I would try it. I mean, that looks hard as well. Those cliffs and stuff. And I always feel like there's people like standing so close.
Isn't
and I'm
that
like,
amazing?
aren't
That's a
you
huge
scared
issue,
you're going to
yeah.
get
Yeah.
hit? Like, I don't know. I think it's wild, but it looks fun. Anything with the wheels is fun.
Well, and that's the same thing with off-road racing, and you get on the desert racing, is there's people just standing there.
Yeah.
And you're racing through these like little cities, little town. It can be a city. I mean, it's like a town, and there's people just kind of standing there. And when it breaks, you got to hope maybe a competitor will stop and help you and stuff. But I just think that looks very, very, very fun.
I actually had the opportunity here recently. Jeff Argo has a trophy truck, and I was able to ride passenger with him for one of the most recent races with their desert club out here. And like you said, all the fans just standing, literally inches away from the track as we're flying by. We're probably 60, 70 miles an hour going through huge whoop sections, lots of travel with the shocks and everything. And they're just standing there, just getting blasted with dust, loving every minute of it. Those are one of the most loyal fan bases that they have.
Yeah, because I just think about the people at the circle track that complain, oh, there's like dirt, and it's like, man, this is, because if you haven't been to Sandia, I mean, it's a world-class facility, because all you got to do is race any road racing in a SEC, and you go somewhere, and it's just all porta potties that haven't been cleaned for like ever. So it's just funny how people are. But if there's, some things that you've wanted to try, like if you've ever wanted to try road racing, you went and you finally had enough money, you got to buy that car you wanted, whether it was a Charger or one of the new Camaros, or better yet, a Corvette, you can go out to the Charlie Fagan School of Driving, just right here in town, and for under $300 a weekend, you can actually go through some class, take your car out, and if you didn't want to do that, you could even rent a car. So here's a shot that I took out there. They had a driver school just last weekend, and they start with just some basic classroom stuff, and of course, like here, they set up some cones, so you learn to with your car how it feels to steer hard to one side or the other, and then you pick up the pace and you learn from there. So you can bring your own car out. So I got a shot of just some of the cars and what the people do. There's a Z06. Not a bad car to take on the track. As a matter of fact, once again, I'll give love to Jim Guthrie, who has the track record out of Sandia in a Z06. Now I did that because there's a lot of disputes, Jim, as to whether you have the track record or not. So show us the piece of paper, show us the slip. We also have another shot of some Miatas. You can also even rent a race car and you can go out there and give it a try. And if you've ever had a chance to drive a Miata, race a Miata, they're very well balanced, they're very forgiving, but it's really where you learn about driving because they're not the fastest thing. It's only 1,600 cc's to 1,800 cc's, but typically it's under 2,500 pounds. So it's really about momentum, how you carry your speed, stuff through. Now, I do got to ask you, did you ever get a chance to drive a legend car?
I did get a chance to drive Jason Irwin's legend car. I believe it was 2 years ago. Oh my God, so much fun. Mm-hmm. I've always done the micro sprint stuff, and they're pretty similar in their power to weight ratio. But the legends on asphalt, especially over at Sandia, where the asphalt's a little bit older, so you get to do a little bit more slipping and sliding with the cars, really fit my driving style quite well. Jason was kind enough to let me, another one of our buddies, Jacob Johnston, driver of the number 17J micro sprint, our other buddy Matt and Dong also hop in and make some hot laps, and it was just a great time.
Did you do that on the quarter mile or half mile, or did you take it on the road course?
We did it on the quarter mile. Half mile, I'm sure that would have been really fun to get up to really fast speeds.
Did you ever get a chance to see them run on that quarter mile and the half mile out at Sandia?
Yeah, I went out a lot because that was right after I just stopped doing quarter midgets. So they used to race it on that when I was doing quarter midgets as well, and we run over there after our races. But yeah, I saw them on there. I actually drove a Miata on the road course at Sandia, and at the time I was pretty little. I didn't know how to drive a standard, and so I went out there and I was like, I have no idea how to do this, right? And I learned that was one of the first standard cars that I drove. And the Miata was so much fun. I also had the chance to drive a Bandolero on the asphalt too at Sandia, and I had much more fun in the Miata than in the Bandolero. But I mean, both great experiences.
So the Bandolero on the quarter mile.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I can't imagine trying to get a Bandolero on the half mile.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to be on the rev limiter, immediately. But I've always thought my next road racing vehicle actually would be a legend car because they're so versatile. Because I mean, you can run ovals, you can run road courses, you can run dirt. I mean, and talk about responsive. So I got to tell one story about Alex Kennedy. I was actually out at Sandia it was like January morning. It was really cold, and I hear these two cars going round and round on the road course. And sure enough, one of them was Alex Kennedy, and he was out there, and Robert Gayton and he, were out there, and he was working on his road racing skills because he's, one of the best road racers that come out of New Mexico. I've turned a 126 in an open wheel car on the road course out there. So I get my watch, and I'm watching these guys, and in a legend car, it's at 1,200 cc, 1,250 cc. Yeah. He turned like a 124. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I was on slicks. But anyway, we got a lot more stories and some other stuff, including we're going to actually talk a little circle track and the different divisions and stuff that are running out at Sandia. You've been listening to the New Mexico Motorsports Report here on the ProView Network.
Turbo Threads is a proud sponsor of ProView Networks.
Almost 30 years of experience means fast service, great prices, and a wide selection of apparel from t-shirts to performance sport shirts, even jackets and hats. They feature low minimums and no setup charges on most orders. Turbo Threads is located at 1503 Golf Course Road in Rio Rancho, or find them on Facebook, online at turbothreads.com, or call 999-1234 for Turbo Threads.
Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dreamstyle Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dreamstyle Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club, or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
Did you know Sunrun Solar is the largest residential solar company in the country? Go solar and save 20% on your electric bill for as little as $0 down. Exclusive partner with Costco, and member guests receive special benefits. Call Mike Gutierrez at 505-227-0791. Sunrun Solar.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Ladera Golf Course. Opened in 1980, Ladera features a full 18 including spacious greens, a large driving range, roomy practice putting greens, and 4 large lakes. Surrounding Ladera, beautiful views of the Sandia Mountains to the east and volcanoes to the west. Ladera is a challenging city-owned course with the longest playing yardage of any other city courses. For weekend tee times and more information, call 505-836-4449.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Welcome back to the New Mexico Motorsports Report here on the ProView Network. And once again, we invite you to check us out at nmmotorsportsreport.com. If you got any ideas on things you want to see, schedules, send us some pictures from whatever track that you're at. We want to make sure we get as much coverage around the state as we can. Of course, I was talking with Spencer earlier about the different tracks, and you probably have the most experience at the different dirt tracks around the state. Tell us a little bit about some of the different tracks and maybe some characteristics you liked best about some of the tracks.
If there's a dirt track in New Mexico, there's a good chance that I've been there. From north to south, there's so many great local tracks that if you haven't had the opportunity to go out to them yet, you really should. One of my favorites, Southern New Mexico Speedway in Las Cruces. Beautiful facility down there with Royal Jones and Roostone in charge. Up north, you go to Aztec Speedway, another great facility. The racing over there is always just spot on. The street stock class, all the way to the sprint cars, puts on a great show every time. And they each have their own characteristics that make them really unique too. Specifically with dirt racing, my mind immediately goes to what kind of clay do they have. Up north in Aztec, you have more of the sandy, silty kind of stuff because it's more down in a valley. And you usually get that a lot. You have a lot of that same characteristic here at Sandia Speedway, kind of more of the sandy, silty type clay. Las Cruces, a little bit more tacky, more of the fine particle type clay that really puts on a great show as well.
Is there a lot of difference to the banking? Are any of them flatter? The difference in length? I mean, does any of that come into play?
Really, in New Mexico, I feel like a lot of the tracks here are relatively flat. There's not a whole lot of tracks here that are banked. I would say maybe Uranium Capital Speedway in Grants, New Mexico. That might be the most banked in New Mexico. They might have close to, I don't know, 7 or 8 degrees of banking. And theirs is actually progressive banking, which is one reason that I really like that track. I'm a driver that likes options, so when you put progressive banking in a dirt track, it really makes me happy.
Awesome. Well, I was able to go out over the weekend. Sandia was having a rescheduled practice, so I was able to grab a couple of photographs. And so, if we can grab the first photograph, it would be a micro sprint, which is what you were driving, and talk a little bit about what they are.
In this picture that you see here, these are our 600cc engine micro sprints. They are running non-wing. Most all of these guys here run the same chassis, whether they're running non-wing or wing. You just change your setup just a little bit. A lot of the times you're just trying to company for not having that wing laying you over on your left side, so you'll move your right rear in or out, whether you're running wing or non-wing. A lot of the time the wings will stay more stuck to the ground versus non-wings. You'll do a lot more sliding around. So I'd say it's pretty much split half and half, whether people like wing or non-wing here in New Mexico.
Okay, and here's street stocks. Now, one thing I've noticed is there's hobby stocks, there's street stocks, there's cruisers, there's all different types of rules. I think that they're calling these streets, but the one in the middle looks much more like what I would think, and we'll come back to the modified here in a second. But the Monte Carlo that's up on the bank there, it looks a little more of what we typically see as a hobby stock. Yeah. Are you familiar with much of the different types of stock cars?
No, not too much on those. I mean, here at Sandia, don't a lot of them race together?
Yeah, and that happens. And of course, I come from road racing, so I mean, Le Mans, they ran 7 different divisions, and some of the cars are much faster than the others. But I don't have a problem with that. But I do know that a lot of drivers feel like they don't want to race against cars that are much different in horsepower because of being surprised. And on the dirt, that's the one thing that you can always find out. Is you got to be quick, because I mean, things can happen, including in just a practice. We had one go over the bank and roll over, but that's why you have an ambulance, which is why you race at tracks. But we'll bring that next shot up, which is modified, because that's a perfect segue to what you were talking about, because X mods versus A mods, which a lot of times you can't tell the difference unless you know what you're looking for. Do you know the difference?
Each track varies quite a bit, but from what my understanding is, again, I've never raced on dirt in a modified, but from what my understanding is the A mods is where you see that huge travel in the rear end, where you pick up the body and it looks like the left rear is getting sucked into the chassis itself, versus where the X mods are looking just stationary and they look like they have a lot less travel in the rear end.
Well, and I think that's exactly it. Is the rear suspension is
and
different,
then motor, of course, as well.
Well, yeah, because you can have more. Now, as a comparison to say an asphalt modified, is there a significant amount of difference?
Again, I haven't raced on dirt in a modified, but the asphalt modified is really unlike any other car that I can think of, especially since you have the carburetor sticking out right in front of you, blocks your vision just a little bit. The modifieds on dirt, though, they do a lot of sliding around, and you really have to be aware of how large your car is, too. That's one thing that almost freaked me out a little bit, because I've always raced smaller cars, open wheel, and I've always been able to kind of see where my right front, right rear, left front are in the car. So when you go to those full body cars, you're doing a lot of guessing, and you have to really have a lot of car control, knowing, if I stick my nose in there with that other guy, do I have enough room to make the pass?
Yeah, Joshua Jackson, actually, I was talking to him about that same kind of thing, and going from a sprint car and a Legend to a modified, he's like, the biggest thing is the size of the car. So I didn't realize how big those things are until you're racing against another one. And he's like, I didn't even realize the wall was right there because it's so big.
The steering's a little bit lazier too as you get into the larger cars, which makes a little bit harder transition, especially for me coming from micro sprint stuff. Even when I was running some sprint car action, the steering input was just a little bit different and takes a lot of getting used to.
That's interesting because the only car I've driven on dirt is a modified. And so maybe that's the part of it. It was a little scary to me because they do get away from you. I will admit that I got to drive a stock car. Roger Frakes allowed me to drive one of his stock cars on the asphalt, and that was a lot of fun. But I also did in warm up go off the back, so at least I didn't flip it. I just had two wheels off. But we were having a lot of fun with that. The final shot, and I know this is a question more in your wheelhouse, both of you, is actually a sprint car, and this is a wing sprint car that was out there practicing. And of course, there's a lot of different types of sprint cars: wing, non-wing, 305, 360s, different things. There's different traveling tours. A lot of people know, the World of Outlaw series, but a lot of neat cars that are out there. But talk a little bit about local, sprint car racing around the whole Southwest.
The picture that you see here, that's James Mosier's sprint car. That's a 305 wing sprint car, 305 cubic inch engine with the big wings on top. This is a lot similar to what you see if you're just an average fan, maybe with the World of Outlaws. Biggest difference being motor size. The 305, a lot less power than the 410 cubic inch engine that the World of Outlaws sprint car series run. But the handling and pretty much every other component on the car is exactly the same. A really intense, up on the wheel, twitchy steering, side-by-side action, huge amounts of fun in those cars as well, and those huge right rear tires digging into the clay. It's amazing to me, and I think a lot of other people too, how little air you run in tires like that. We've ran as little, I know in the micro stuff, we went out this last week and we were running 6 pounds of air in the right rear.
Geez, wow. And they're big too. I mean, so I can't imagine what that was like.
And that's where you get that huge sidewall flex too, trying to utilize as much rubber as you can.
What kind of speeds do they get up to?
Again, totally track dependent. Speed can vary anywhere from 60 miles an hour on a quarter mile to somewhere like Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio. You see speeds up to 120, 130 miles an hour, and that's on a half mile.
Wow. And so a lot of people don't realize that, the Chili Bowl, for instance, and those are midgets, but they have like 300 cars that show up and they run multiple mains because you transfer
in an indoor event, yeah.
In an indoor event, which I think got to have a respirator or something. But that's a really neat event. Of course, Tony Stewart will get out on the tractor and stuff and smooth the clay. But this is the New Mexico Motorsports Report on the ProView Network. But I want to tell you, there's so many other ways to get involved, and please get involved. If you care about a local short track, go out and watch a race. Go buy a hot dog. I mean, come out, bring a friend, bring a ticket. It's the only way that we can continue, whether it's drag racing, circle track racing, motocross racing, whatever you're into, just go out and participate. But we're going to give you a way to know what's going on and a way to actually get involved. New Mexico Motorsports Report, nmmotorsportsreport.com. You can pick up a magazine around town. You'll see them, the NM Motorsports Report magazine. It's a free takeaway magazine. A lot of sponsors in there. We're going to have schedules and different stories. We're always looking for reporters, people that can go out and take some photographs, write up a story about it, whether it's a car show you see on the corner or whatever. Snap a picture, send it to us. Send us some information. Tell us how we can get involved with whoever's running the event. That's the only way that we're going to continue to keep the sports and the things that we care about. So as motorsports people, we like it just as much as you like your basketball. This has been the New Mexico Motorsports Report here on the ProView Network.